This is Quotidian Light, aka Maya Good, and if you've been wondering, or if you've gone in my comments and you've questioned my safety, you wonder how I, as a woman in a van, stay safe on the road, stay tuned. Being aware of your surroundings is one of the most important things you can do as a traveler, whether you're female, male, transgender, no matter what your identity, you really need to be aware of your surroundings. But everyone says that, and very few people actually say what that actually means. That means knowing where you are, having a good sense of your environment, when you're safe, who's next to you, who's around you. A good example of not being aware of your surroundings is what I'm doing right now. I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing because I'm too busy talking into a camera. Put your cell phone away, open your eyes, and look around. What street are you on? If something were to happen to you right now, do you know what street you're on? Do you know how to tell 911 where you're at? Are there any people near you? Do you know what they look like? Being aware of your surroundings means having a good sense of where you are in space and time. And if you're someplace where suddenly you don't feel easy, you'll be more likely to notice because you're actually paying attention. How you walk is a really important factor in staying safe. There have been a lot of studies where they have interviewed muggers and stuff, and they've asked them what makes a good mark. And being distracted is number one. A perfect example for this from my personal life is when I lived in New York City at 19 years old. My roommate and I both lived obviously in the same part of town because we were roommates, and we worked similar jobs. We walked around the same areas all the time. She was born in New York City. It was my first time being in New York City. You would think that would give her a heads up. In the year that I lived in New York City in 1996 and 97, I was not mugged one time. In that year, she was mugged multiple times. The reason why there was such a big difference is the fact that I walked like I knew where I was going and she didn't. Head up, shoulders back. Walk, look, and make it known that you notice whoever's around you. Uh-oh, looks like I need to clean the van. This is a safety hazard. Why? Well, two things. Mess in the front makes it harder for you to go from the back to the front when you're sleeping in case of emergency. It also makes it more obvious that someone is staying here. Books, clothes, food, bags in the front of your vehicle all make it much more likely for your vehicle to be noticed. And being noticed is exactly what you're trying to avoid. And while we're at it, when you're sleeping in the back of your vehicle, either keep your keys on your person or close to the front where it's easy to jump in the front seat and drive off. Where did I park? Do you remember where I parked? Did I park there? Or there? Well, truth is I'm only half joking. You need to move your vehicle. If you park in the same place all the time, especially if you're in an urban setting, then people know where you are. And nefarious people will definitely take note. They'll notice that there's a female in that car. They'll notice if the car's been there for multiple days. They're going to know what times you leave the car and what time you went back to the car. So part of staying safe is moving your vehicle frequently. Oh, there she is. When you're in an urban setting, park away from others. For that matter, even if you're parking in the wilderness, park away from others. A long time ago, a shady guy friend of mine said something that made a lot of sense. He said he liked dating single moms because it was easy. In after dark, out before dawn. Well, you need to be like that shady friend with your van. Don't let anyone see you getting in and out of your van if you're parking in a public urban setting. It feels good to go to sleep in something pretty, or just to sleep with nothing on at all. But part of safety is being able to evacuate quickly in an emergency. And so when you go to sleep, make sure that whatever you wear to bed is something that you feel comfortable jumping in the front seat and driving for several miles down the road in. Arrive at where you're going to sleep after everyone else is in bed, and get out early in the morning before they wake up. And lastly, we need to talk about weapons, mace, things like that. I don't carry any weapons, and I've gotten into it with a couple people when I was hitchhiking about the fact that I refuse to carry anything. And there's a couple reasons for that. The first reason is just mentally. I feel that when you're carrying a weapon, it changes your energy to an energy that's much more likely to draw in negative interaction. But outside of that, I have very good reasons for not carrying a weapon. You see, if you are untrained and you're carrying a weapon, you're actually putting yourself more in danger. If you're carrying a gun or you're carrying mace and you don't know how to use it, and someone takes it from you, that becomes a security risk. In addition, you need to pay attention to how are you going to lock it up? How are you going to keep it safe? How are you going to keep it from getting stolen? How are you going to make sure that when you're driving from state to state that you are abiding by the laws between those, going from one state to the next? So those are all issues. So that's why I refuse to carry a firearm. But also I refuse to carry any other type of weapon for similar reason. I'm not trained in martial arts. If I'm carrying a knife or if I'm carrying a mace, that's very likely going to get taken from me. And mace in particular is an extreme safety risk for me because I have asthma and breathing issues. So even if I were to carry mace or bear spray and someone were to attack me and I spray them, if there's a gust of wind, I'm getting just as much of that as the person that I'm attempting to spray. So if you want to carry a weapon or you want to carry mace, this is not a panacea. This is not something that can make you feel like you're instantly safe. It's something that you're going to need to train to use properly. And if you're unwilling to take that training, then you really should think twice about carrying something that could potentially be used against you. For the people of color on my channel, we have a special consideration that many other people don't necessarily have to consider. And that is that the right to bear arms has a caveat for us. We are frequently pulled over, and that's just our reality. Not going to argue against it, not going to argue for it, whatever. It is what it is. When you're traveling, when you're in new places, if you're driving through places where they're not used to seeing minority faces, you can expect to be pulled over more frequently. One of the first questions any police officer is going to ask you when they pull you over is going to be, do you have a weapon? And that is a question, personally, I've chosen to never have to answer in the affirmative. We know the case of the gentleman that was killed who was a legal firearm carrier. He had permit to carry, he was within his rights, he answered the way the NRA recommends people answer, and he was still shot and killed. After he was shot and killed, the NRA took a long time to respond for a lot of reasons that I don't want to get into. The point is that for us, carrying a weapon carries an additional risk because we are not perceived as people that would be carrying something for a happy reason. When someone else carries a weapon, it's for protection, maybe they're a hunter, but when we carry a weapon, there's an instant assumption that we must be doing something wrong. And if the worst were to happen, then that weapon can be used to excuse what happened, and it can be used to smear us, even if we are legally allowed to carry. So if you choose to carry a weapon as a person of color, as a van dweller, Make sure you know all of your rights. Make sure you've gone through all of your training. Make sure you have all of your licenses. Make sure you follow every single law to the T. And go into it with your eyes open. That one of the first questions any police officer will ask you is, are you carrying a weapon? For me personally, I've chosen to always answer that no. And that's just my choice. That doesn't have to be everyone's choice. Just know that anything you carry, you need to know exactly how to use it. You need to know how to keep it secure. You need to feel completely confident and competent with whatever you're carrying. And as a woman, I think this especially applies to mace, because many women buy mace and never practice with it, barely read the directions. If you're going to carry mace, carry two and practice with it so you understand how to use it, so you understand how it works with the wind, so that when you go to spray an attacker, you just don't incapacitate yourself.